Good evening. We're going to start the meeting at 5:35, and while we all rise and face the flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome to our special meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 15th, where you've got the privilege of the Board of Education to present our budget. Great news and bad news. Julie is not with us because she did have her baby boy this morning. There is no name to announce at this time. We'll save that for her when she comes back. Very healthy, weighing in at almost 8 pounds. She is watching us though right now, so in the hospital. So we wish her, best of luck in the next few days and a congratulations. So because of that, she usually would do the budget. Mr. Benigni, we're going to have him present the budget tonight. So we had our first budget meeting back in January, and then we were supposed to have a workshop to where the Board of Education come together and kind of discuss the budget, and due to inclement weather and cancellations, that happened Monday night. So the Board of Education got together for a workshop. We all discussed the budget. Then afterwards we had our regular meeting, and we approved the budget a little differently than we ever have. As far as I've been on the board, and I'm not sure on the whole history of the Board of Education, we've never turned the superintendent's budget down asking for more money, which is what the Board of Education decided to do. We heard from several community members that stood out and wrote us emails. They didn't want us to lose certain positions. And then discussing along not only the community but us, we decided to increase his budget. So tonight we will be, he's going to be doing some slides with that. But we felt it was important hearing from people with the needs of the students, especially here at McGee, and I'm glad we're doing it here tonight because this was a concern for several positions, that the students really need our help, and we want to make sure that we're maintaining what we have and meeting the needs of all of our students is our #1 priority right now. So with that being said, Mr. Benigni will be presenting the budget.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. As I go through the budget, this budget's been adjusted as of the board meeting on Monday evening. First, I'd like to review the goals of our budget, of education budget. These are board goals. #1, provide the quality education that people expect. 2, prepare students for multiple options and opportunities upon graduation. 3, maintain favorable class sizes and course offerings. 4, consistently support technology. And the 5th, commit to a safe learning environment for all students and staff. These are not in an order of priority, but when you think about a budget, we are focusing on all 5 of these goals, and I believe this budget does that. Berlin's mission and core values, I will not read it to you. It's important that the budget adhere to our core values and support those values. Those are the values that we expect for all of our students, and that our staff work with our students daily. Beliefs about learning. All students will learn when they feel safe, included, respected, and valued by their community. I think some of the discussions about positions the other night support this #1, about the safety and students feeling respected and those staff members that work with students in that capacity. We must believe in challenge and support all students to reach their personal goals and a high expectation. I think that's the need that any education budget is dependent upon staffing, and we need staff in order to support students in their personal goals. Learning is enhanced by a cycle that includes goal setting, practice, feedback, and reflection. Guided practice, class size, courses that are offered, the variety of courses, the number of courses, the electives, the specials, the exploratories at the middle school. Those are all supported with budget numbers. As you look at other districts, you'll see that some of those areas are decreasing. In Berlin, it's been a priority to maintain those areas. And 4, students are empowered and engaged by choice and authentic learning experiences. You'll hear about our Career Pathways program, and I think that the board presentation tonight gave and also supported this area about authentic learning experiences for all our students. The vision of a graduate. what we expect our graduates to be able to do and demonstrate upon graduation. These are not just done in 12th grade. When they graduate, they are worked on throughout their career as a student here, pre-K or K through 12. Be able to communicate effectively, collaborate, learn, think, innovate, and contribute. And the capstone project is one example of where students demonstrate those skills, which is a graduation requirement. So that's beyond the numbers. Now we're going to get into the numbers, and I think that's, when people think of budget as just numbers, those numbers represent what our expectations are. And oftentimes I presented a stacked bar graph, which I'll do in a moment, but we wanted to give you a pie graph of where the money is divided up amongst the different categories. So when you look at our budget, the contractual obligations, 72% of the Board of Education budget is based on staffing. So, and it's really more than 72% because we have that one new staff. It's really 75%, or 3/4 of the budget is staffing. You'll see that the other 25% that makes up the budget are not areas that we could reduce, but they're areas such as contracted services, transportation utilities, tuition, supplies, equipment, and others. I'll speak to each of those individually about increases and the amount of increase and why they need to be increased. But when you think about maintaining the same staff that we have this current year for next year, it's 75% of our budget is dealing with staff. I like the stacked bar graph as a better depiction. I think the percentages are helpful. In order to maintain the programming and staffing that we currently have this year in the school district, that's not adding any new staff. To maintain the staff, we need 4.24% increase. That means the contractual obligations of the various unions, as well as the insurance benefits for those individuals, we would need 4.24% to maintain those staff members without adding anyone new. So any number below a 4.24 would mean that we would be cutting staff members. And I think when I go through the other line items, you'll see that there's been a real conscientious effort to squeeze down on those various areas, such as transportation, utilities, and contracted services. So you're dealing with the 1.6%. To go back to the circle, the pie graph, you're looking at that 75% represents the blue portion, or 4.24% of the overall budget, and that 1.6% represents everything outside of personnel. The one piece that you'll see on the top, which was added here, we have one new staff member that we're asking for next year. That new staff member is a K position or a first grade position at the elementary, and the rationale behind that is that our class sizes are very large at both elementary schools, are larger, Willard and Griswold, and we may need, if new students enroll, we may need to add a staff member there to maintain favorable class sizes that the community has come to expect at our primary grades. Staffing changes. If you looked at this a week ago, you would see there are multiple staff positions on this list. With the increase by the board the other night on Monday evening, the positions that were eliminated are now not eliminated. We put them back in the budget. There's the one position I just spoke of. I have Griswold. It potentially could be Willard also, but we're monitoring both about that K or first grade position based on enrollment. The two positions you see existing, the family communication specialist and the reading teacher at McGee, these positions were funded through the ESSER grant. As we spoke with the Board of Finance in previous years, they said put them into the grant, use the ESSER funds, knowing that those ESSER funds would expire. They now need to be funded into the actual operational budget. So you'll see the $217,282, that is in the operational budget. Those are the staffing requests that would be in the operational budget that are new. As I said, to maintain, we need those two positions to be in the operational budget, and one new position would be the elementary position there. What's new for 2024? I think the discussion of, in order to move forward, oftentimes you want to move in a direction of what's new, what do you need, what do students need to be successful in the future, what gives them that competitive edge. And the mantra in the district has always been options and opportunities. And I think that some of this supports those options and opportunities for some students, as well as some mandates by the state. So the first one being $100,000. The $100,000 supports our Career Pathways program. We'd like to offer a Certified Nurses Aid program at the high school. We've had students participate in this program, but it's not been offered in the class, in the structure of the courses. It's been offered either in the evening or on the weekends 2 students, this would be offered as a course where all students would have access to the course. It's in conjunction with Tunstall Community College. When students complete the course and pass the assessment, they are to become a certified nurse's aide, and they're able to be employed at that time. The new position, that's the one elementary teacher I just spoke of, 76,000. We are mandated, based on a state mandate, to now provide 18 hours of professional development to all paraprofessionals. We have a price tag of $34,000 to do that. That is not optional. It is a requirement. The $149,000 you see in the next column, those are the 2 positions that were previously funded with ESSER grant that are now back in the operational. And the last 110, we've had these budget meetings for a number of years, and the high school ESS program, which has been highly effective, with 2 clinicians, we have used ESSER funds to fund that at the middle school. I can tell you that currently there is overabundance of students that we are constantly reassessing and prioritizing who can have access to these services. We believe they're essential to move forward. This was also funded in the grants before. It's now in the operational budget. So when you look at these areas, these are some of the drivers that are new to the budget, but we feel are essential. We are working to have the new budget with the adjusted figures ready for Monday. We'll post it on the website, but we did manage to get the summary page here. I will speak to the various lines individually, but this gives you a snapshot of the new budget with a 5.84%. Was roughly an increase of 1% by the Board of Ed. It was at 4.87. We're now at 5.84, just shy of 1%. And all of the monies that were increased by the board went directly back to staffing and positions that were being cut. So administrators and our administrator contract, it's an increase of 2.73. Affiliated contractors is 2.25 or 4.6 with STEP. The administrator's contract as well as the teacher's contract, there's steps to their contract. Teachers move and administrators move through the steps based on number of years that they're in the district. So it's not the same raise for all. If you're having a step and a raise, you have a higher increment. Administrators have a 5-step, where teachers have 14 steps. 5 administrators are eligible for step increases. Non-affiliated administrators are budgeted at 3%. The graph just shows you over the years the number of administrators that have been in the district and the number of administrators that are currently in the district. As you are aware, last year we did cut an administrator. We cut the assistant superintendent's position and did not hire a new person for that. We redistributed the work and promoted 2 curriculum directors. Certified staff, teachers are not receiving a 4.68% increase, but that is calculated based on STEP again. Number of teachers changing lanes based on also degrees, advanced degrees. As teachers have a STEP, they also receive raises based on their degrees, whether they have a master's or a 6th year. So we have 6 teachers that are eligible for a salary lane change at this time, 112 teachers advancing STEP, and 155 are on max STEP. The 4.68 includes that new teacher in the increase, as well as those teachers that are now coming back into the operational budget that I shared with you that were paid in the ESSER grant. So that's why you see a 4.68. The conversation is often, why is it so high? I could speak to negotiations, which we concluded last year. We go through negotiations with representation, with an attorney, as the CEA has an attorney also. And we get to a point where, should we go to arbitration? Oftentimes we go to mediation. The next step would be arbitration. But the discussion is, if the settlements in the state are coming in such a way that they're higher than what the agreement currently is, though oftentimes the recommendation is not to go to arbitration, which would cost well over $100,000, is to settle because we're going to lose an arbitration and the rate would be higher. So I don't want the public to think that we're not negotiating in good faith and we're just giving raises at a rate, but I can say that what the teachers settled on the last time during negotiations was below what the state average was at that time. So the most districts are at 3% in the last negotiations for teachers. Looking at staffing numbers, you can look back a number of years and the number of staff that we have currently in the district for teaching positions. Non-certified salaries. Non-certified, again, they're not receiving a 5.51, but the family communication specialist, previously an ESSER, is in there. the mandated training for paraprofessionals. Non-affiliated contracts are budgeted at 3%, and they may not be 3% every year. They may have a year of 3% and then 2 point something, but we budget at 3%. An increase to the per diem substitute account. A year ago, we had over 40 substitutes in the district. Currently, we have a little over 20 substitutes in the district, and that is a definite issue. It's definitely an issue with the continuity of instruction in the classroom. If teachers are not in school, not having someone to cover those classes means that someone is pulled within the school to cover the classes, which means students aren't receiving the instruction that's expected. So we have increased the substitute account. We offered a new rate for substitutes, and we changed the policy of the requirements that a substitute have a 4-year degree. This is similar to many of the surrounding towns, and being competitive. If someone can come to Berlin and is making $90 a day, but they can go to Newington and make 150, nothing against Berlin, they're going to Newington to make the 150. We need to be competitive at this. And custodial overtime. Employee benefits. Rate increase for medical insurance is set by the town. It's typically set at 10%. That number may come down. It may maintain the same. It's a year-to-year based on the cost and the expenditures. So that number we don't have control of at this point. The employer percentage for staff groups has been adjusted to meet the contractual obligations of each group. That's the percentage that the staff pays for their benefits. And the pension account adjustment. So an increase of 8.72 for the employee benefits. Contracted services. When you're talking about contracted services, the ESS program is a large portion, 110,000 of that. 249,000 is the ESS program at McGee. ESS has held the same number that they charged for this current fiscal year, for next year. It includes all operational educational software, so such as something as PowerSchool, which is used throughout the district. It's what parents use. It's what we use as a student information system. Our Atlas Rubicon, our curriculum mapping system. School Messenger, which provides messaging to all of the parents. All those systems are in contractual obligation. It also includes legal fees, copier leases, athletic training, and operational expenses. To highlight athletic training, the athletic training cost has almost doubled from last year to this year, and that's across the state for athletic trainers. So definitely an increase in these various contractual obligations. Utilities, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. I know that in our own homes, where our utility prices are definitely escalating as of recent increases by Eversource and the fuel costs. So there is a 21 almost % increase in utilities, which I think might be a little lean, but it definitely, I think that is aligned with what's going on outside of the public schools also. Berlin and Cromwell. There's a lot of discussion about the Central Connecticut Transition Academy, which is with Berlin and Cromwell. All expenses are split 50-50, but the utility prices are also split 50%. So Cromwell pays for 50% of utilities, and Berlin pays 50% of utilities. Transportation. When this first came across my desk as Ashley, our finance director, I said, how are we at a 1% when I know that New Britain Transportation's contract is 3% a year? So looking at the transportation, which has been irregular in the past couple of years with the pandemic, the thought was that we had funding that could offset transportation, and the number we had may not be as accurate as we thought. So the cost of fuel is negotiated annually, and the price per gallon for both diesel and gasoline is expected to increase. The number of technical schools, this is the biggest savings, the district transport to is less than the current fiscal year. We expect a $75,000 reduction here, meaning that more students are staying in the portable public schools and not choosing to go to technical schools, which means we don't have to provide the transportation to those schools or as many schools. So there's a huge savings there. District intends to use a portion of excess cost funds to offset special education transportation. This year, the excess cost funds, if you don't know what excess cost means, excess cost is when it's four and a half times our per pupil rate for a special education student. We receive a reimbursement from the state government on that. Typically, it's been at 70%. It's supposed to be increased to 72. The rumor is it's going to be at 88% for this year, so we believe we'll have some excess cost funds that can help offset transportation and bring that increase only down to a modest 1%. Tuition. This is not tuition for students. It's tuition for students that attend magnet schools, which they have the choice and the option to do. It's also tuition for students that need to be outplaced for their learning needs, that we can't not meet those needs within the district. We don't have the resources. It also would be students, if they were expelled from school, were required to provide the same education they would receive in terms of hours. So these are, all those tuitions are wrapped up in here, into this number. Special education tuition is budgeted net of excess costs. Includes unanticipated special education placement. We have $200,000 in the budget for unanticipated outplacements. I can tell you that right now we have 2 students that will be outplaced within the next month, that one of them will probably be in excess of that 200 already. So the $200,000 that we have in, that number is very important, and I stress that. We do not control the outplacements, meaning we could have a student move to town tomorrow. If their IEP required them to receive education in a different location, we would be required to pay that fee immediately. So that's something that we don't control. What we do control, though, is the various programs and things that we offer in district, such as the CCTA. Students in the CCTA are required to receive education until they're 22 years old. If we didn't have a program in-house, those parents could opt to send them to another program, and then we would have to fund it. So the more programs we can offer in-house, I think we can do as good a job, if not a better job, than the outplacements for some of the programs. And we do offer many programs that do this. When we can't do that, then students are entitled to the appropriate education, and that will oftentimes be an outplacement, and there's definitely a cost to that. So at this point, 8% increase, 192,000, we could have one student right now, if outplaced, would exceed 200 for just that one student. So that is a concern. Includes tuition costs for career pathways and independent study. We'll talk a little more about career pathways. New program at the high school. We hired a career counselor that's working with our students. We had a presentation at the Board of Education. Thought it was very well received, and I thought the students' comments were outstanding about what they've learned already and the experiences they've gained. Includes anticipated 3% increase for all special education outplacements. Each of the schools will increase their tuition yearly. We're guessing 3%. Sometimes it's 4 to 5%. Accounts for students aging out of magnet school tuition. So as they age out of magnet school, meaning they graduate and move out, then we also accounted for that. So. Supplies, textbooks, and materials. I think it's misleading to say that the budget the other night, that the overall ask was 7% by administration. Meeting with the Board of Finance initially and meeting with the Finance and Operations Subcommittee, the ask was that all administrators came in with the budget not requesting any new staff members. So, I know that Mr. Bordenero was here. He asked for zero-based budgeting. It's not zero-based budgeting, but it's not typical that administrators are told do not ask for any new staff. And they were also told not to ask for any new supplies. So within the budget, you will see a very limited supply increase. That supply increase is only for our career to support our Career Pathways program at the high school because it is a new program. There was no budget line for it. It's roughly $30,000. Other than that, every building, when they submitted their budget, has held to the same supply amount that they've had for the last 4 years. So it is zero-based in some degree. So what principals did is they might have moved around line items within their supply budget, but the overall supply budget did not increase other than Career Pathways. It's important to note that because if you think about, I can share with you a pallet of paper today, what it cost 2 years ago is drastically different. I think we see those prices when we go into the store ourselves. It doesn't change, even though we buy in the state account when we're buying pencils and pens and paper items and various supplies, markers, those prices have all increased. So staying at a zero increase for 4 years is definitely actually a reduction because of what you can purchase today, what you could purchase 4 years ago. So that 7% that may have been, oh, that's all in, that's everyone wanted, that was with some very strong constraints that administrators haven't worked within before. Supplies, textbooks, and materials, $18,245. It's an increase of 1.88%. Especially at the high school with various textbooks when we're teaching either a UConn ECE course or an AP course, Certain textbooks are required when they deem that those textbooks that we currently have are no longer adequate. In order to teach that course and offer it, we need to purchase those textbooks that are required. So the options to not purchase a textbook is not an option. If we don't purchase it, we can't offer the course. So you'll see some of the textbook expenditures. I think I said everything there without saying every quote, so go on. Equipment. Before I get into equipment, I believe that Berlin Public Schools, as far as technology goes, and what we've demonstrated throughout the pandemic, we have a very strong use of technology. We have strong aptitude in our students using technology. We do that without ever having an equipment line that adequately funds technology. Our equipment line has never been something that says you have a yearly end of cycle and you're going to replenish the Chromebooks, you're going to replenish iPads, you're going to replenish teachers' laptops. We do that as best we can with end-of-the-year funds and wherever we can scrimp money to get to provide that technology. I do believe strongly that without that technology, we would not be preparing students for whatever endeavors their future holds, whether it be going into an occupation right away or it's going on to college. They need the technology, they need those skills, they're utilized throughout. So before I get into equipment, I think it's important to note that. Includes mandated availability of free menstrual products in schools. There's a public act that we must have menstrual products in both at least one male bathroom at the secondary level, as well as in all female bathrooms, and that's a public act and a law. Believe it or not, to do that and to get the machines and the product, we're looking at close to $20,000. With exceptional supplies needed for a career pathways program, all building departments are taking zero. I just said that. With the rising cost of inflation, 0%. So I think you can see the same thing that I said for supplies as goes for equipment, as far as the rising cost of everything. All other expenditures. Increase reflects estimate costs for reconfiguring classroom space at BHS. We have $100,000 in the budget to retrofit a classroom to offer the Career Pathways Certified Nurses Aid class. There'll be beds and these sinks and so on. The offering of this course would be on site. Currently, we already have, with enrollment just starting, we already have 19 students who signed up for the course. So the hope is to have that classroom retrofit and to allow students to take the course during the day. The thought behind that simply is that when you offer it during the day, you offer it to all students, not only the students that have the ability or the resources to have someone drive them off-site on a Saturday or at the evening and so on. So that's really one of the main drivers of new money coming in is for that CNA classroom. 5-year comparison, I won't go through it with you. I think it just draws to say, have we made reductions over the years? A constant thread is, do you make reductions when the number of students go down? I think you can see that we have made reductions where they're needed, but I also think we're at a unique time. Students coming off the pandemic, different learning over the last years, and students' needs have changed greatly. I often wanted to say to you regarding the staff, but also looking at the students. Oftentimes, well, you're decreasing by your estimated number of students. So we're estimated to decrease by 46 students, I believe, for next year. But when you think about, and it was discussed at the last board meeting, and Jamie's not here this evening, there's a number of apartments that are being added to Berlin in the next year. The likelihood that some of those apartments will have students that will attend school is very high. So to think that our population is going to decrease by 46, I'm not so sure that projection is correct. I can tell you about last year, we had a projection of decreasing, I think, by 38. We gained over 100 students from last year to this year, and 50 some out of the students enrolled after September 1st. So students are enrolling even now throughout the year. So the number of students is increasing, and the anticipation with the number of housing projects that are going on, especially the apartment housing, that the numbers will increase even greater. Choice. If you look back here on our 5-year history, we've tried to maintain 4% of the student population as choice students. These are students that reside in Hartford but attend the Berlin Public Schools. I won't speak to how successful the students feel they are after being in the Berlin Public Schools and the opportunities provided. In various interviews over the course of the years, that is definitely a strength. Students definitely gain by being educated here in Berlin, and the students and the parents attest to that. the concern here is, even though we offered 4% this past year, we only had 3.61%. The likelihood we offered, and the board approved, we offered new seats for next year. We offered the 22 new seats. The likelihood that we'll get to the 4.21 is not likely. The base, the population base in Hartford that is attending choice, not just in Berlin, but in all choice schools, is decreasing drastically. So you'll see in the budget that we put in the budget at 3%. We're still hoping for 4%, but the likelihood of being there is not great. So I just wanted to draw your attention to it, so no one thinks that there's a, 4% here, but there's 3% there in the budget. And really the rationale behind why students aren't attending is the transportation issues. We're very fortunate to work with MBT. MBT has been very good at delivering on their contract and having drivers available. We don't have sports teams not making events. We don't have students not arriving to school. That is not the case in every district right now. It's not. But when you have students that are participating in choice, it can take 2 weeks or more for them to get to school, 2 weeks after registering. And then there's always issues with them getting to school on time and so on. So many parents are frustrated with transportation. We don't control that, but that is an issue across, and so the numbers are decreasing. This slide here, oftentimes it's said, well, how much extra do you have within the choice budget? What is your extra funds that aren't allocated? So if you look at our 23, it was $100,000 that we had extra for special education outplacements. If we have the 3%, we're looking at $187,151 for potential outplacements. That's additional choice funds that are not allocated to teaching positions. When I say they're allocated to teaching positions, it does not mean that they're teaching only choice students. These are teachers that are teaching all students, Berlin students. They're positions that would have to be in the operational budget, just like the ESSER budget, but we're using choice funds for those positions. And you can see broken down by the schools what is spent at each school with choice funds. The budget funding history. This one's a little unique. The little red there is the board's increase of the budget for Monday night. You can see what the superintendent's request has been. I'll start after we got out of the ones, the 1.3 there. When we hit the 3.21 back in 1920, asked for 5.96, 5.36, 3.29, 4.56, and so on. You can see last year at 2.5. And you can see where this year, the 4.87, now the 5.84, and then determining where that line is going to be for the 23-24. I just think it's great to see a funding history of what was the request was and what the actual approval was. These are not towns in our DERG. These are just towns that we often talk about. This just shows a comparison, a 5-year average of what each town has had for an increase to their educational budget. And the 2.5 last year was just above Newington at 2.46. And so you can see where we are at 2.68 in a 5-year average. This graph here shows what we spend per pupil as compared to other towns in our DERG. Our DERG is our socioeconomic index, towns that are similar socioeconomically as Berlin. And you can see that we're close to the middle, a little maybe 1 or 2 from the middle. Berlin is ranked 60th for wealth out of 169 towns. This shows what we spend per pupil as compared to the state average and how it's been over the last, I want to say there's 12 years here. I won't spend time on it. You can look through it. You can trust me on this portion. Our grants are decreasing. The ESSER grants are not being renewed. So you'll see funding that was here in previous years that is not here now and won't be for the 23-24 school year. You can see how much there was a large amount of money that was available that we were using. Those funds are not available. That's on the federal side. On the state side, very similar, that the grants are decreasing yearly. And I just draw your attention to the choice grant. You know, we were close to $1 million. This current year, we're receiving 768 because the number is below 3%. If you'd like to see the numbers, I said it's roughly 46, which is what I believe it calculates out to. Here's a number of enrollment and the roll-up. We're not sure of K every year because it's based on parents signing up. A student can be enter K as early as 4 years old, all the way to 7 years old. So depending on when parents choose to enroll their children, that determines our K numbers. I'll close with this, and that's kind of where we opened with the goals. A school district's budget reflects the commitment of a community to invest in the future of our children. The erosion of funding for educational challenges, sustainability of Berlin as a competitive school district with rich educational public opportunities for all students. So it's important, as I said, that 4.2%, that is to maintain current staffing as it is this year, as well as current programming. So I stress that 4.2% is not anything above people and programs. Do you want to speak to this, Tracy, or do you want me to speak to it?
Is it up? Yeah.
It's up.
So I wanted to highlight this slide. It's page 39 in the packet. So this is currently the percent increase requested by fellow DIRG members, people in our DIRG. And you can see where we are, we're right in the middle. The average percent requested at the bottom is 5.41. And with the increase that we decided to do on Monday, we are right a little bit above that. So that's where we currently are right now with what we want as for our budget compared to everyone else. So it looks like we're in line with what people are doing. Right now, is there anything else? Okay. So right now, I just want to open it up to the Board of Education for anyone that wants to make a comment or maybe ask a question, because some of the well, wasn't too new, it was just the new number, but would like to ask any questions or make any comments. Adam?
We had a very lengthy meeting on Monday. It feels like it just ended an hour ago. So we had our budget workshop and then obviously a lot of discussion over the budget. And I think the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me was that we've been taking, you know, a series of cuts over a number of years, and it's always been doing more. Yes, we're doing more with less every year, and we're getting to that breaking point. And as a board, we don't feel that it's appropriate to be cutting the staff beyond what's already been done over the years. There are continued state mandates. There are continued programs that are required. As a board, we feel that we want to support our administrators and our teachers, and most importantly, our students. If you look around and ask anybody who is getting married and wanting to move into a community, the first thing they're asking about is, how's the education? I don't recall anybody that's ever asked, what's the mill rate? People want to move into a community that has a strong educational foundation, and if that foundation starts to erode, we become an older community with less people moving in, and less services, and a less desirable community. So this is the town I love, grew up in, it was very good to me. All these programs were available. Times change, technology changes, requirements change, the social emotional needs of our students change. Things change over time, and it's very easy for even myself at times to say, well, why do we need that? I didn't have that when I was growing up. Life is a lot different than it was when I grew up. And if you look around the state and then talking with other Board of Ed members from across the state, it really is a struggle right now, coming out of COVID, trying to get our students back on track. The social emotional aspect of what's going on within our school system is, I don't think it's been highlighted to the extent that it should be. I know it's been talked about a lot at the state and the federal level, but until you are actually in a classroom, until you actually are talking to a child, or even your own child, or a student that is having issues in school, or being bullied, or having issues with social media, and issues with dealing with the stresses of school, you don't really understand exactly what's going on right now. We lived in a simpler time years ago, and I think that times have changed. So I have no issue adding those positions back in. I think that it's warranted. We'll see where the process goes. But as a board member, I would not feel comfortable cutting people right now. So I'm in full support of what's been presented.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just add, because Jamie brought up, I think, a really important point the other day, and she's not here tonight. So, Jamie Miller highlighted that by the end of 2023, and if her report is accurate, we should have about approximately 340 apartments or units added to our town. I think it is unrealistic to assume that those are all going to be childless adults living in those 340 units. So I think it reasonably follows that we will have a good number of students added to our student population. As Mr. Benigni noted earlier, even though it is forecasted or predicted that we will be losing students, that forecast or that prediction was inaccurate for this year. And I think given the increase in housing units within our town, it is likely to be inaccurate this year. I think it logically follows that were we to cut resources from our current students and add additional students, that means all of our students would suffer the consequences of that. So I am too in support of a budget that supports not only our current students, but any that might be entering into our system, as well as the faculty and staff and administration that support them.
Thank you. Anyone else? I encourage everyone to talk.
I fully support the budget. I think a strong school system is inherent to a strong town and community. As Adam Salina kind of illustrated, the first thing families are looking for is a town with a good school system. Bringing in young families to a town is always a great thing, and it helps the town as a whole. You know, when word gets out that a school district is suffering or underfunded, people don't want to move to that town. And the town suffers as a result. I think the budget that we have put forward is very reasonable. It's in line with other towns and districts in our DRG. And I would not feel comfortable cutting positions from our school district, and I would never forward a budget that would do so. However, the decision is ultimately up to the town government. So I look forward to hearing and having some discussion.
Thank you. Melissa?
I'll go down the line, it will be easier than everybody's accounted for. I voted for the initial presentation of, excuse me, of the superintendent's budget of 4.87%. As I addressed on Monday evening, I fully support public education. Teacher myself, I have a student enrolled. I possibly will have another kindergartner. I'm still on the fence right now for this coming fall. What I just keep going back to is just stressing that we have Mr. Benigni to look through, you know, with his staff, to comb through, making sure that we have what it is that we need to function, to give our students the best education that they can. That's why I approved the original budget, because he obviously had things in mind of what might have been able to adjust, talking about the lead teacher, and he was stressing because of the numbers of the students at McGee, which have declined, although I'm very well aware of the issues that are happening just within my role as a preschool teacher this year. The new enrollments for fall, as of right now, I just have one student that's working with birth to 3. The students that are coming in next year, I would have to say probably 80% of them are already working with a birth to 3 program. So I do understand that there are going to be not only the issues that we're dealing right now, but this is definitely, excuse me, going to take many years to, I don't know if I want to use the word fix, but to overcome these challenges.
Thank you. Gina?
I did not support the budget that was presented by Superintendent Benigni. I thought that we could come in a little bit lower, always trying to weigh on some way to compromise. Having been through one budget cycle and trying to learn the process, I know that last year what was presented, we were able to bring it down, and I know that there's a lot more going on this year with the career pathways, which I'm a big proponent of. I think it's a really wonderful program. I think it really helps students to get on with whatever career it is they want, and I also think it gives them an opportunity to do it while they're still young enough to get sort of sparked with the interest. I like that program a lot. I wish that there was something like that when I was in school, because it really helps kids to not feel so fixated on, I have to go to college, I have to go to college, and when all their friends are going off and they don't really want to go, it's a huge issue. But anyway, so that was really something that I would support. The ESSER funds that are no longer going to be with us, and now having these clinicians at the school with this mental health facility type of setting, I'm not sure that that's something that I really want to see go forward. I understand that kids have mental health issues. I'm not naive. I could tell you a lot of stories about my own son, but at the same time, I think that we need to keep school about learning and keep it an educational institution and not a mental health institution. That sounds a little radical, I know, but I just think that if we continue to focus on, you know, the negative aspects of COVID, I understand kids are coming in with problems. They need mentors. They need people to support them, that they can confide in. They feel like they can't get it from their parents. I get that. I know that that's real. But at the same time, I'm trying to find a balance of where are we headed in terms of our mental health with the kids? Are we just going to have like a clinic attached to the school, and we're going to keep funding this so that kids can have a way to, you know, vent, which is important. Their mental health is absolutely important, and it's critical to their learning. But at the same time, I just think the pendulum is, in my opinion, just swaying a little bit too far that way, and I just don't know if I really want to support that initiative. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Matt?
I don't have much to add to what's already been said, other than I was in favor and actually was one of the people who recommended that we increase the budget and add the positions that the superintendent put on the list after listening to the people who did come and speak to us at the board meeting and seeing the student presentation for the CNA class and all of the other new offerings. As I pointed out the other night, we sort of have changed the paradigm of Berlin Public Schools from you're going to go to college only to you have an opportunity to create a life for yourself. And that costs money, but we're giving these kids an opportunity that other kids didn't have. And in this world, not everybody's cut out for college. So I support the budget. I hope the town supports the budget. And that's all I have to say for this evening.
Thank you. Anybody want to add anything? Okay, my turn. I am in support of the budget, and this is why. So I think a lot of times we have a hard time getting past the past. I think that when we look at things, we look at the past. Well, we didn't have this, our kids are fine, I turned out fine, and whatever. But I think as we all can agree, today is nothing like it was 10 years ago. And I think that right now we have to look at the present and we have to look at the future. And we got to stop looking at the past and what we've done in the past and what's happened in the past. Because it's our kids' future. But more importantly, it's like if we're planning on living here, it's our grandchildren's future. So as we think about that future, and we're, as Adam had said, that people move to the community for children. I mean, I know when I was looking for a house when I moved back to Connecticut, the place that I grew up in Simsbury. So what do? If you had a really good school experience, you want to bring your kids there because you want them to have the same experience. Now, I still have kids in high school, but I do have one that moved out of state. I hope when he has kids, he wants to be near me because I'm grandma. And I hope that if I'm here, that he had such a great educational experience, he's going to want to raise his kids here. So I do think it's important that we invest in our children because it'll only make our town even better in the future. Especially now because we have all these like hip places coming in. We've had a lot of new businesses. We've got restaurants that are opening that are attracting a younger crowd than not that any of our pizza places are bad or anything. They're all phenomenal. But it's not so old school. It is creating a younger environment. And with that younger environment, we have to be able to offer something for everyone, and that includes our students. I am loving the new programs that we have at the high school. I often think that the children that maybe did go to college for 1 or 2 years and dropped out, that if we'd had this, it would have been maybe a different decision for them. I think that when I first started on the Board of Education, that's the number one thing that I always wanted was to be able to offer something for everybody. And that included, the CNA program. Oh my gosh, when I heard those testimonies, I was just like, holy cow, I can't believe we have that. But we got emails. And we also heard horrific testimonies from children who, God forbid, if they didn't have the ESS services here at McGee or the high school, from the parents, the gut-wrenching things that were said, from the suicide rates, if people in public actually knew what our children right now in our town, in our schools, McGee and high school, if you knew the rate of how many were hospitalized last year, of how many of our children, doesn't have to be mine, they're ours, tried to commit suicide, and when you read those letters and you saw those testimonies, how can we say no to them? I just don't understand that. And if we're capable of doing it, if we actually can have the finances to do it and somehow work together and not argue all the time, I think we should. And I think we should do it for all of our students. And I'm sorry if I sound cranky, but that's just how I feel on all of this. So with that, if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to email Julia. She will be checking everything, and Brian, so they can get back to you. We also are, this budget will be submitted to the town by Tuesday, February 21st. And we also have a joint meeting on March 1st with the Board of Finance in and at the Board of Ed to be able to go over the budget as well. So those are our upcoming meetings. Did I miss anything? Okay. But thank you guys for coming out again to hear the presentation. We really, really appreciate it. And I want to thank the Board of Ed too for talking about your opinions, especially at Monday night. That was great that we can discuss things openly and have healthy discussions. I appreciate it. And again, to Julia, congratulations, and we can't wait to see you again. Thank you. It's adjourned. I'm sorry. Motion? No, you got to motion it. I can't motion it. Awesome. So Adam is at 6:29, and then Carrie seconds. All in favor? Okay, motion passed 8-0. Nope, 7-0.